Welcome to 101, a podcast for young women interested in careers in film and TV.
We'll sit down with industry professionals, ask them your questions, and get the answers you need to know.
101. It's a beginning.
Right before we got on, like, I'm in this WhatsApp group chat with like a whole bunch of like DPs and stuff like that. And someone just posted a poll, like, it's March of 2024. It's like, hey, how's work going for you guys? Not there, leave me alone, like working. Again, anecdotal, but like 7 people were all like not working in a group of maybe 100. We just posted this. I don't know. I think the work is still in silos, like depending on the industry, depending on, I work in film, I work in television, but I do a lot of commercials work, but it's like the industry is so varied and your network is so varied and the work you do is so varied. I'm more aware of these days, just like how just different all of our experiences are.
Yeah. And you say that you have the diversity of work, but some people have been completely siloed, completely pigeonholed into one sector.
It's not supposed to be that way. Like, remember when you started off, like the multi-hybrid wasn't like cool yet, like it wasn't like,
it was like you need to know what you're doing and choose it.
And you choose.
And I talked about this on another podcast, like when I was coming up, I recognized after the fact it was more out of a necessity rather than just a love of creation. I like shooting, I like editing, I like directing, I like producing. This is me saying this when I'm 20, right out of college. Also, I got paid to do all that stuff. So I was like, I like doing this stuff and these people are going to pay me to do it. Why would I say no to that? That was never a voice inside me where it's like, you have to choose. All the people I knew who chose one profession, and I say back then, let's just go like a decade, they were just at a different level than me. I was like, yeah, you could say that. Like you direct Law and Order, bro. You're skipping a few steps in the realizations of like, we got into this industry at very different times. Like I am 20 years old. You were going on your second marriage. Like we are very, very far apart in our careers right now.
You have to really think about what you want out of your career. If you are content being, a second AD, go for it. Like do that and do it well, and you will work a lot. But you have to decide that for yourself when you're thinking about what you want to do in the industry. We've touched a little bit on this, but like, how would you define what you do? And how did you start? Like, what would you define as your role?
Especially this year, a lot of my stuff just feel like a lot more jazz. Like I think as we were talking about like the role of the multi-hyphenate, and for a while it's like I'm a filmmaker for all intents and purposes. I direct, I produce, I shoot. Clients know me for different things. My path still zigzags in somewhat of an upward motion. I don't get greedy. I'm thankful for what I have, but it is definitely one of those things. Like nowadays, it's like I am a multi-hyphenate filmmaker, and depending on what the job is or the ask, I just kind of fill that role.
How did you get started? How did you even break in, really?
I think it just really starts with like a love of the creation. And if I am being completely honest, and I have to tell this story because I tell a lot, it's like, I have to give credit to my parents. I was one of the very few people who got to love and fall in love with this industry, with creating, with cameras, with moving light, with expression of actors and, people in front of lenses so fully and completely because my parents, not for nothing, like left me the alone. They're like, oh, you want to do this? Perfect. My parents are both teachers, so they're inherently like, you got to do something with your life. You seem to really enjoy these cameras and this art shit. Like they really just nourish that part of me really, really young. The art teacher I had, Miss Baldwin, just doing art stuff in art class. And like we were looking at National Geographic, and there was this National Geographic cover of like a cheetah on like a rock, like looking out. Again, high school, not really paying attention to nothing. And she just came up and was like, oh, she said, I bet that photographer got paid a lot of money to shoot that photo. And just that sentence was like, people pay you to do this? I just thought you just did this for fun. Like, it hadn't occurred to me that photography, because that's how I got into the start as a photographer, photographing. It didn't occur to me that people paid you to do something as fun as that. And that really sparked it. I started doing a lot of photography in school, and I developed a really nice portfolio in high school, and that got me my scholarship to go to SCAD. I went to SCAD Atlanta. There during the time was 2008, and everything was changing in the industry. Cameras were becoming digital. So now this thing that I've been using for so long to take still photos I was like, well, I'm going to do some video with this. Because I was in the Atlanta campus and SCAD's worked so closely with the community there, with Turner Broadcasting at the time. Shout out to Barbara Griffin and Mark Simon, but Mark Hill as well. All my OG mentors who kind of really pushed me through the first parts of my career. They were these titans in the industry who were like looking for young people. I was 18, 19 years old making cash in Atlanta during the first Black president. Like, it was amazing. I tell anyone, if you could have done that, like, do that. Like, but it was a very sort of immediate sort of way to understand there's something here. Like, it was quick, it was well paid. And again, you're 18, 19, it's not like your overhead's that high. So just those 4 years of trying to just letting the 5D Mark revolution kind of take its course, working and going to school in Atlanta, doing music videos, doing like small budget commercials, and still doing photography, that just kind of developed my eye. Like, a lot of the stuff on the wall back there is just like some of my first photographs and stuff like that. Like, it just kind of stacked on top of each other. So that is a long good way of saying, yeah, I started young. I started really young.
One creative venture informs the next.
I think a lot of our listeners may think like, oh, well, I have to be one thing first. And can you talk a little bit about how all of those things helped bring you to where you are now?
I mean, shouts out to ADHD, man. Like, that's, I think, one of the really big sort of nurturing things. Like, I just always liked a lot of different things, and I didn't want to start. I didn't want to settle down. So, like, I feel like just personality wise, I'm a little predisposed to wanting to do a lot of this. I like knowing how things work, even if I won't ever use it. Like, the intricacies of how things are created always fascinate me. Like, even outside the industry, it's just like, I'm fascinated how other industries work, like the garbage industry, like any giant industry that like supplies like Tupperware. Like, how do you guys work? Like, the inner workings of the thing kind of allow me to understand more completely and more comfortably. Like, oh, I know I'm taking a photo, but how am I taking a photo? What's the process happening? So I always enjoyed like knowing those things, but I knew I wanted to do something that had to do with cameras. Even though people were like, oh, you need to choose and do one thing, the people who were telling me that weren't really at a level to where it's like, I don't think that applies to me. And the people who I knew who were doing all the things, who were also multi-hyphenates, we were flourishing, we were thriving. Like, those are my people. I was like, well, you are doing what I'm doing, so I know I'm not crazy.
It sounds like you're happy with the decision of going to a school that offered film and being in that environment, being in a city that was growing as far as the film industry goes. It's just a conversation that we always have with our guests and with our listeners that want to know, is it worth it to go to a film program, whether it be undergrad or graduate? And, for me, I went to a School of Visual Arts as for like a expedited 1-year graduate program. And even that time alone was enough to immerse yourself in with people that are like-minded. It depends on the person and, how you're going to treat the program.
Yeah.
Are you really gung-ho about it? Are you really going to make it your all?
I absolutely agree with 100% that you're saying. Like, and again, I told you, I'm the child of teachers. My parents are teachers. My parents' parents are teachers. It's just like, education was always a part of my life. So for me, and I think just in general, if we kind of unpack a lot of like the conversation where people are saying like, you don't need to go to school to do this. It's like, sure you don't, but you probably should. Most people probably should. For every Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, there are like a million people who aren't them. And I'm glad we're having this conversation because it does demystify a lot of things. When I was doing that stuff in Atlanta during the 5D Mark revolution, Mark II revolution, during like the heyday of the Obama years, during Atlanta, like the hip hop pinnacle, it's not like I was conscious of that. I didn't do that on purpose. I was like, ooh, if Obama takes Georgia, then that means that the demographics was, no, I was 20 years old. I happened to be there. I rode that wave. I look back on it now and realize that what's happened, but you're not as aware as you think you are when you can Monday morning quarterback someone else's career. So I think for a majority of people, you do need to go to some sort of schooling, especially if you don't know anything about film, especially if you have no way into film. And I know the big boogeyman about that is loans, which I got loans. Everybody I know who tried to do something got loans. Like the people who came out scot-free with no loans, God bless them. There's arguably no other way right now to do this at a high level, in my opinion, unless you're going to go to some sort of like 4-year institution where you can learn, grow, so you can meet peers that you will. I still work with people I went to college with. They're still paying me. I sent an email off to one of them this morning before this podcast. I look at it, it's just like, this is a long-term investment, and just like, those loans gonna be loaning. All right, they might get my money, they might not. But I know for certain, like, I would not be where I'm at in my career had I not gone to school. Meredith, I probably would have met you, because how I met Angela and how I did all my stuff. So I'm an advocate for school. I'm an advocate for college. I think it's necessary. And I also think you need a safe, especially as filmmakers, you need a safe place to be bad. Like, you suck at the beginning of this. You do not know your voice.
Oh my God, I know.
Your shots are whack. You don't know how to edit. Your sound is off. Like, you need a safe place to be bad at the beginning of this career, because you are going to be bad.
And that's okay.
And you're supposed to be bad.
You're supposed to be bad.
You're supposed, like, enjoy being bad at what you do, at least at the beginning.
Learn from
Make those mistakes. It's okay. You're supposed to be bad. Like, you're supposed to have shitty equipment. You're supposed to not have a lot of money. You haven't done enough yet for them to give a lot of money. Like,
right.
You need to start. I mean, come on, video game logic. You don't start at level 50. You start at level 1. And you grind your way up, because in this industry, like most things, like, stagnation is death. Take rest, breathe, but keep moving. Keep moving forward.
I'm going to backtrack a little bit. And this is like one of my favorite questions to ask everybody that I meet. Okay. What was your first job that you thought to yourself, okay, I'm in?
It was probably a job at Turner Broadcasting.
Yeah.
I was going to school at SCAD. SCAD and Turner were really close. There was an internship pipeline, because of the SCAD at the time. To graduate, you need 4 internships to graduate. And Turner was always like the big one, because, again, the relationship that they had. Paid internships, shout out to Paula Wallace.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Paid internships. Yeah. No, that Georgia, for all its shortcomings at the time, it was I got into college and they were like, you have to pay them. You cannot not pay them.
That's incredible.
That's
it wasn't, it was like maybe right at minimum wage, but it was just like, you have to pay these students something.
It's the principle.
That was my first sort of like realization. It's like, oh, they want to pay me, even though, like, I would do this for free, even though most people would do this for free. But the payment was like the expectation. They're like, now that we're paying you, you have to do stuff for us, which is kind of like weird or nothing. It's like, that's why I prefer to pay, even if I'm paying I'd rather pay you than ask you to do it for free. Because the payment comes responsibility. And at the end of the day, I need something done, even though you're a friend of mine, but I need there to be some accountability for this little money and this little thing that I need you to do. And that was like the contract. At least that's how I recognized it. In conjunction with all my other freelance stuff that I was doing in college, Turner was a machine. I had a badge, like, I was on payroll. I had to, like, be buzzed in the building. They had studios and lights and stuff like that. Like, none of the stuff we had at SCAD, none of the 3-kit ARRI lights. Like, they had 10K moles and they were rigging them up into the sky. And we were like going to breakout boxes and stuff like that. I was like, oh shit, this is cool. And Turner was an umbrella company. So it was like, I was working in their image management department, which is photo and video. But it was because Turner was CNN, TNT, Turner Broadcasting, Adult Swim, Cartoon Network, like HLN. They were essentially like, they did all of the promos for those networks. Those stings you see before, Sanjay Gupta sort of like looking at the camera. They were doing all that, the headshots, the billboard. So I got to see amazing people create at a very, very high level. And then that internship turned into like a 2-year like freelance position with them. Like, I remember the first time they paid me that wasn't like the intern pay. I remember like when that flipped over, like that check, I was like, oh, I was like, this is how y'all really giving it to people? Oh man, I have been wildly underestimating my abilities.
But look, you came, you understood the assignment, they trusted you and kept coming back. Like, that's
that was kind of it. So I got to give a lot of credit for Turner to those early years. And it shaped my eyes. Like, that's how I knew I wanted to do commercials. I like the pace of this. I like the framework of creativity. I like the ask, it felt like it was the newness of it at every time. And, iron sharpens iron. It was like, I took those skills and rolled it into my indie projects, but it was like very clear. I was like, oh, I want to be in this commercial game.
I started out in commercials too. You get your brief, you conquer it, you cut it. It's a nice full picture completion wrapped yeah, it's like, it's very tidy.
And that's what I liked about it. We shoot it, you come together with these amazing people for this short, very intense amount of time, go away. 2 months later, you get your finished results, and you're just like, oh, wow, I did do that. We did do that. And by the time you've kind of forgotten about it because you're on to your next one. And you look at it like, I should have put a side light there. Oh man, that's how they're gonna color that. I should have been more forgiving on the negative film. Okay, I'm gonna talk to Tom next time we're going into this. Let me make sure that, yeah. So it was a good way to just, still learning in a lot of ways. Like still, even after I graduated, I was still able to kind of very quickly, because they were turning these things out, man. Like it wasn't be like something we'd work on. Like we'd shoot something over the weekend, it would go up in 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
There were deadlines. We had to meet them. And then as content is, it's gone. You'll never see that spot from 2011 again. It's on, oh yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, you can find it on like iSpot TV. Like
if you're lucky, it's an AVI file on some guy's hard drive somewhere in Douglasville by now. Who knows? But understanding just the disposableness of our industry as well, being kind of okay with like you were creating things to do something and then it's gone. Don't hold to like, you guys aren't going to run that spot from 2 years ago anymore. Like, no, we need to shoot another one now.
What are you working on now? What was your most recent project, or what do you have coming down the pike?
I have a couple of commercial projects I'm doing with State Farm right now. That's what I'm prepping for. I'm also in prep for 2 short films that are shooting in the summer. I'm writing 2 projects that I've been kind of hired to like write. We were talking before, there's like, it's not a horrible time for me. I don't really boast about it now given the circumstances, but it's like, it's doing fun. It's fun right now. Yeah. We'll ask me again next quarter, because that's the thing too. This year comes in seasons. Everything's in seasons, but right now we're solid.
I've just been loving watching you and your career like grow and grow, and so proud of you. It's incredible.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this year. Like it's again like a lot of fun projects that I'm excited about, and just given how the last couple of years have been, just really kind of trying to reconnect at least like, okay, what about this do I like? And then just honestly a newfound respect, thankfulness to just being able to work at the level you are. Like I've had friends leave this industry, people who I thought were amazing, killers in this field, and they're like, can't do it. Gotta go. Got a kid. Got like my mind needs something that's more secure, which is fair. So this is a very weird, transitional, interesting time that we're still kind of going through as well. Like, I don't know. This is how I feel now. Ask me again in, like I said, 2-3 months.
Yeah, that resiliency is a huge part of this industry, and it's not just to be resilient. It's how do you get food on the table, and it's
If you could change something about this industry or a couple things, what would you change?
I don't even know, man. I could say, the nice stuff. Oh, a livable wage. Oh, healthcare for everyone. That's what the union's supposed to be for. And look how that system has kind of, in a lot of ways, even before the strikes, people who I've known were just like, I need so many days to make this thing worthwhile. That's a part of being in the union. It can help you at when it's supposed to, but it's just like you have to get to that other side of that threshold for those days to count, for that healthcare to kick in, for that pension to kick in. That's not the poo-poo on anyone who's in the union. It's just to understand that those are the circumstances that you have to abide by if you're going to go down that path. This industry, which large, there's a lot of things that aren't working for it. There are a lot of things that are changing. I don't know what I would fix in any real sense outside of just the morality of it, but I also think, this industry is working how it's supposed to. You let corporations own everything, like this is what you get. You get a new Star Wars movie every year, and the conflation of just like everything's being pushed together. I want to see when the chaos comes. I want to see how it breaks. I want to see what we come back from after this. Like, because that's all I see. I was like, this thing kind of has to come crashing down. And I don't say that as wanting people to suffer, never, ever that. Yeah. But that's kind of how I view certain things through life. It's just like, this is too big for you or me or any one person to change this. The muckety mucks in those buildings have to want to change. And the numbers associated with it changing don't make sense. They're going to keep making $1 million, they're going to like $200 million tentpole movies because in a lot of sense, like they can't do anything with the $5 and $10 million movies. They're too big. They need $250 million to make this thing work. Disney needs another theme park. They need another stuff. Star Wars Acolyte is coming out. It looks amazing. And they're going to need something after that as well. Yeah, that's how I kind of feel about this whole thing. It's just like, it's working kind of how it's supposed to work. And the only things that are going to be changed, like we got to change it for ourselves. We have to change it amongst what we're doing. You and your friends and the folks who are coming up, y'all got to get like $40,000-$50,000 together and go hit a tax credit and make something that way. We have to change how we can't like ask them to change. We have to change ourselves.
That's what Kate's all about right now.
That's not too dire, right? Like that's not too like
no.
I'm not
but I mean, I think it's like asking an A-list celebrity. It's like, hey, come do my student film. They're not going to be like making these smaller films. It's like we have to kind of come up with something else. I'm so passionate about the dying indie film industry and how to make it work, but also how to get the films seen. That's the thing. Like nobody's buying films. They're just making them. There's nothing at stake for Amazon to make films. They don't care about the stuff that they're making. That's like a secondary portion of their business, just like Apple.
Isn't that wild too? Like that they
Apple
own
doesn't
so
care.
much of Apple cares maybe a little bit more than Amazon, but like that these two, I say a little bit, only because Apple cares about aesthetics, you know. But you're absolutely right. It's just like two of the largest film producers are tech companies, and
it's like,
as huge as we see the film industry, it is like this small of their bottom line.
Yeah,
that's wild to me.
There was a moment where I saw actors that, and bless them, I'm in SAG, like I support SAG actors, but they're like, you need us. I'm like, no, they actually, Apple and Amazon don't need you. Like they don't need you.
They'd like you.
They
want
to make stuff, but like they're not going to go down if, in flames if they don't have us.
I think the really telling sort of realization that I had, and I hope maybe you guys had, was during the strikes. We're all very into our own industry and we're so important, but like realizing the people who are not in the industry, when they didn't really know a strike was coming on or happened because they just watched Grey's Anatomy over and over and over anyway. And then the only thing my mom, God bless her, even kind of when it ticked on her radar that something was wrong, she was like, hey, I've seen this episode before of like some Good Morning America show. Like, wait, why is Bruno Mars back on? Album already came out. Like, it was that sort of like, what's going on, Michael? That was kind of like the weird realization where it's just like, in our infinite wisdom and wanting to work more and create more, we kind of made the perfect storm of why they could just outlast us for so long. They're like, people would like to see this next season of Severance, but they will watch Friends again. Like, and then they will go to work and they will forget all about that. Yeah, Kate, how you said a lot of people make movies. Who's buying them?
Well, nobody. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Nobody's buying indie films, and that's the problem.
So what do you do?
Well, you start getting groups together and start initiatives to screen indie films. Like, these are the stories that are core to our society. It has to be a group of people. It can't just be one single voice. That's kind of what has to be done, because even film festivals, like, it's just they're just disappearing. They're initiatives for filmmakers, all of the labs and things like that. They're just not they're not producing any results for new films. So it's an uphill battle, but I think it's worth fighting.
Yeah, especially if this is what you want to do. Like, as dire and as nihilist as we've gotten, it's just like the need to create and the desire to create will never go away. Especially in this economy, as we keep barreling forward on this giant human experience. Is like, as much as you're going to want to go back and watch Friends, like, people do want to watch new things. It's just knowing all of that, knowing that no one's buying new films, knowing that people are going to be more comfortable. Like, it's kind of like the game. It's like, well, how do you get them to recognize your value? And what does that look like? And I'm not saying I have the answer to that. I'm just saying, like, those are questions you need to kind of keep asking yourself if you're going to keep doing this.
Yeah, I came across an article. I want to say maybe it was in Deadline. I'm not sure. But it was talking about how Gen Z is really not interested in reboots and, reimaginings and stuff like that. They just want fresh stories.
Yeah.
And, I've never been one for reboots. I appreciate the nostalgia and everything like that, but I think that's kind of where it's gonna, like, the rubber hits the road or whatever that expression is. It's like,
I think the pendulum swings back the other way.
yeah,
I think as much as like we see like the crumblings of this infrastructure, but I think that's why I'm kind of encouraged, kind of by what you said, by the breaking of it all, because at a certain point, and this, again, age-old gang law, it's like the higher you are, the farther you have to fall.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like in a lot of ways, if Apple or an Amazon, well, those are the side, but like Paramount, MGM, all the legacy studios who are trying to sell themselves to the tech companies, just as like, when things break, new things could take their place. Like, what does it look like in that transition, in that new creation? And again, in that chaos, because I'm a little agent of chaos right there, like a little bit of craziness is kind of what gets you to this side. Like, but it's just the reality of the fact, like, it's gonna be kind of crazy. And I think we're in another transitional period where we're trying to figure out what our industry is going to do. We have all these new technologies that are dictating the way we learn and the way we absorb. And at the same time that, like you said, Gen Z is not interested in reboots and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, how do you cater to that? In what way do you do that? And what does that look like? I mean, let's just talk analytics. Like, is it 1 million Gen Zers? Is it 2 million? Is it 5 million? Do they want to watch on phones? Meeting your audience where you're at. Like, and again, this goes back to like commercial stuff. Like, so much stuff we've shot on iPhones, like directly on iPhones. Shooting stuff vertically is just like what they want. That's part of just like the way this industry is going to change, or is changing, to kind of meet these new viewers where they're at.
And it's interesting. I feel like there will always be space for stories and new voices, and it's just a matter of finding the vehicles to get them out there.
I've enjoyed this conversation. Like, I really kind of I listen to a lot of you guys' podcasts, and I just kind of appreciate how like free flowing they kind of were. This is just my perspective as a director, DP, producer, hybrid, living in New York, non-union, working from an extensive commercial background. I like how everyone's perspective that you guys have talked to is different. Like I said, director, DP, producer, commercialized brain, where it's like, I want to be creatively free and liberated, but I also want anyone, especially younger people in the career coming up, I want them to be very conscious of the fact, like, you need to make a living at this. Like, I will always try to come at this as motivationally it's possible, but it's just like, at the end of the day, we all got to file taxes, my guy. And I want to get you paid. Like, that's my love language. Like, are my friends eating? Or, you know what I mean? Like, can I put some money in your pocket? If I can't not give you advice and also not say like, and this is how you get people to call you. Like you said, show up, be responsible, be knowledgeable, be good at what you do. Like, I'm coming at it from that point of view, to where you should be a hireable machine. You are an entrepreneur. You're a small business owner. Run me my coins, please. Like, I need them. Yes.
Yeah. I love that. I love the idea of a hireable machine, because that's what when you're starting out, it doesn't matter if you're starting out as a PA, if you're starting out as an actor, like whatever role you are starting out, that is what you are. So
what makes people want to work with you?
But after 12 hours, after 12
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like,
gotta shut that machine down, baby.
But like, even when you get to 12 hours, it's like, okay, like, I've luckily have never had too many like shoots that have gone late. You know what I mean? Like, if we were doing a 12-hour day, like, they knew that at the beginning. It wasn't like a surprise. But one project, a producer I worked with from Turner, ironically enough, we were shooting a Toyota shot in New Orleans one day with like an A-list talent, and we had the car, we had to hit all these locations, and she was racking her brain trying to figure out like, how are we going to get this all done in a day, because then they leave. And she had this aha moment, and she basically went, like, we are pulling a 14-hour day and I'm paying you all accordingly. Like, she just baked that in. She's just like, oh, I will just pay them like, I'll just, like, we'll just say that at the beginning. This isn't going to be this isn't going to be a surprise. we're going 14 hours.
Yeah.
And we are redoing all of your deal memos right now.
And it's part of the plan. It's part of the plan.
Part of the plan.
Don't you like, how did you feel about that? Because there is a lot of conversation, obviously, about long days and overtime and, you know, like knowing ahead of time, because there is a difference. If you're aware of the fact that it's going to be a 14-hour day, I feel like the morale of the crew, of everybody.
That's exactly what it was.
It seems like that would be the way to do it if you're going to do it.
I thought it was a great like cheat code. And even she was just like, I can't believe I figured this out. What if I just pay you guys more money? Like, it was a respect. Like, everyone's like absolutely cool. She changed it around because, and we ended at a bar. Like, that was our last location. Like first round's on her. The openness of communication and just sort of everyone's willingness to go like, oh yeah, we do. Because I was saying to me, I was like, there's a lot of stuff to shoot in a day, man. How are we going to get this all in? And it was just too many weird things where it's just like, we got to just buy the time. Like, and that made everything better. Like, then everything fit perfectly.
But it seemed like the respect came from the top, from the top. And that's the difference.
The difference.
Well, final question. What are you watching right now? And do you have a favorite director or, you know, favorite shows or movies that you always fall back to for comfort or for inspiration?
I'm enjoying Shogun right now on Hulu. Shogun's really kind of grabbed my attention. I mean, the Wachowski brothers, the Wachowski sisters now, let me not, you know, misname them. But, you know, not even the first Matrix. Matrix Revolutions is what did it. The third Matrix did it for me. Always Sam Mendes. I remember the first time I saw Road to Perdition, and I was like, you can make a movie like this? What? This is amazing. That blew my mind. Michael Bay. I got to give it up to the king right there. Like, my family loved them to death. They would not go to the movies unless it was an action popcorn flick. So like my extended family, aunts, uncles, everybody, like looking back on it, like the times that we spent a lot of times together was at the Magic Johnson Theater over at Greenbrier Mall. And all those movies, like of all the movies we saw, like I think 2 or 3 of them were Michael Bay movies. Like the first Transformers, Bad Boys 2, and what was the other one? God, no, well, we weren't seeing, that was not Michael Bay, but Independence Day. You know, those giant sort of popcorn flicky movies was what brought my family together. And I appreciated how they just enjoyed the ride. They weren't like, oh, this character's backstory doesn't make me believe. But no, none of that. They were just like, Tyrese needs a gun. Give that man a gun. Sam Witwicky needs to get out of, I don't know what Will Smith's gonna do, but that alien looks horrible. You know, like, oh, I love watching people watch movies because we suck sometimes watching movies.
Oh, yeah.
You ever annoyed watching movies with us?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I talk to my husband all the time. I'm like, you know, this, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, are you still talking?
Shut up. All of you, shut up.
Like,
let people enjoy things.
Exactly.
That's why I like making movies with real people, because it's like, those are the people who are going to watch your movies. Like, do your work. They're great movies. And like, you're the filmmaker. You put all that emphasis and backstory into that. But sometimes, like, man, people just want to just be entertained. That's what we're doing. We're just trying to entertain them. And 100%. My family was mostly entertained when, again, a black man and a white man got into a spaceship and saved the earth. Like, that was it for them, you know? Or a black man and an Asian man like foiled a drug dealer. They love Rush Hour. Like, I love all those movies that were just like, we are movies. Have some fun. Gotta go back to work soon.
Stop taking yourself so seriously.
Stop taking yourself so seriously. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Like, I mean, I just saw Dune 2. That was great. But I mean, think back, even you guys, like, I know comedies are kind of dead, but it was one of those things. Like, when's the last time I've been in a theater and just laughed with strangers? It's been a minute.
Yes.
It's true.
I missed that. God, I didn't realize till right now. I was like, I kind of need that. I think that's why we're all messed up.
We had we did our little like award season review of a couple of the films up for awards. And one of the things that we talked about was just like rewatchability. Like, think about the films that you do come back to and like the films that were around for the award season. And it's like, some of them you're like, wow, that was really amazing. But it's kind of like, would you watch it again? I can say that there are a lot that I would be like, click, you know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't come back to a lot of them. So I feel like that's the piece that's missing lately. It's like, would you want to watch this again? Shawshank, I will watch every single time it's on TV.
Yeah. God, seeing Rush Hour 2 for the first time and not knowing where that was going. Just Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker just doing their thing. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, seeing Bad Boys 2 for the first time and not knowing where that's going. Like, being engaged in the action, but also laughing at the same time.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
I know. Our screenplays where they start out and where they end up doesn't seem to be all that different, and there's not much workshopping going on. So it's like, it seems like everything is so, formulaic. You know what's going to happen.
It's different. We have to find what like this era of filmmaking is going to be. I'm sure we'll look back in like 20 or some odd years, and this era will be named like, the film depression, as we all kind of like cobbled our stuff back together, and A24 and Jordan Peele's company get together and like buy Microsoft or some bullshit like that, and then the revolution happened. I don't know, something weird like that, but
I'm game.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, this was such an awesome conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's my pleasure.
If you're interested in learning more about 101, check out our website, www.101podcast.com.
Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, all at 101 Podcast.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.